My name is Stephanie. I am 32 years old and I finally bought my first home after saving every penny for 8 years. The moment I got those keys, I felt like I could breathe for the first time. My tiny two-bedroom bungalow represented freedom and independence. Then my phone rang. It was my mother insisting I needed to buy a bigger house so my brother Derek, his wife, and their 3 kids could move in with me. I was speechless. Before I tell you how I responded to this shocking demand, let me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button for more stories about setting boundaries. Growing up in our middle-class neighborhood in Portland, being the youngest was never easy. My brother Derek was 5 years older, and from my earliest memories there was a clear difference in how our parents treated us. Derek was the golden child. When he wanted the newest video game system, Mom and Dad would find a way to buy it. When I asked for art supplies for school, I was told to use what I already had. This pattern continued throughout our childhood. I remember my 10th birthday when I received a second-hand bike, while just months earlier Derek had gotten a brand new one for his 15th birthday. When I mentioned the difference, my mother Evelyn simply said, "Your brother is older and needs nicer things." That was always the explanation delivered, with a tone that discouraged any further questions. My father Howard was quieter about it, but he always deferred to my mother. He would occasionally slip me a few dollars, when Mom was not looking, with a quick wink that I came to realize was his way of acknowledging the imbalance without actually addressing it. High school brought more of the same. Derek was average in academics but excelled in baseball. My parents never missed his games, cheering loudly from the stands. Meanwhile, I maintained straight A's and joined the debate team, often coming home with trophies my parents barely acknowledged. When college time came, my parents paid for Derek to attend an expensive private university. He dropped out after 3 semesters, claiming the educational system was too restrictive for his creative thinking. I still remember my mother consoling him, saying, "College is not for everyone, honey. You are too special to be confined by their rules." For my education, the story was entirely different. "We have already spent our college fund on your brother," my mother explained. "But you are smart, you can get scholarships." I did receive some scholarships, but they covered less than half of my expenses. I worked 20 hours a week at a coffee shop and took out student loans to cover the rest. Every semester was a struggle. I would call home when tuition was due, hoping for some help, only to hear about how Derek needed money to start his latest business venture. One time it was a food truck. Another time it was an online store selling customized T-shirts. None of these ventures lasted more than a few months. Despite the financial strain, I graduated with a degree in marketing and secured an entry-level position at a local firm. I worked hard, lived frugally, and slowly began paying off my student loans. I tried not to complain about the disparity in our treatment. Part of me still hoped that one day my achievements would be recognized, that my parents would see how hard I had worked and be proud. But that day never seemed to come. Derek bounced from job to job, occasionally moving back home between apartments. Each time he faced financial difficulty, my parents would call me. "Your brother is going through a rough patch," my mother would say. "Could you help him out?" "Just a little loan until he gets back on his feet." These loans were never repaid. When I once gently reminded Derek about the $300 he had borrowed 6 months earlier, he became defensive. "I am your brother," he said. "Are you really going to be so petty about money between family?" I backed down, feeling guilty for even bringing it up. When Derek met Rebecca during one of his brief periods of employment at a cell phone store, my parents were thrilled. "She is so good for him," my mother gushed. "She has a steady job and is helping him find direction." Rebecca was pleasant enough, though somewhat aloof toward me. She worked as a dental receptionist and seemed more stable than Derek, which gave everyone hope. Their wedding was an elaborate affair, with my parents spending what must have been thousands of dollars. I was asked to be a bridesmaid, but also to handle much of the planning without compensation. "You are so good with details," my mother said, not as a compliment, but as justification for the unpaid labor. When they announced Rebecca was pregnant just 3 months after the wedding, my parents were ecstatic. "A grandchild," my mother exclaimed, tears in her eyes. The baby shower was another expensive event that I was expected to help organize and contribute to financially. Little Jackson was born, followed by Emma 2 years later, and then Liam another year after that. With each new addition, Derek and Rebecca seemed to struggle more financially, and my parents dipped deeper into their retirement savings to help them. Through all of this, I continued working hard, getting promotions, and dreaming of the day when I could afford my own home. I hoped that with adulthood and independence, the family dynamics might shift. Perhaps once I had established myself fully, I would finally receive the recognition and respect I had been seeking for so long. I was wrong. By the time I turned 30, I had been working at the same marketing firm for 8 years. I had risen from entry-level coordinator to senior marketing manager, which came with better pay but also longer hours. My social life was limited to a few close friends, mainly because I dedicated most of my free time to side hustles that would help me save more money. Weekends were spent either doing freelance graphic design or helping a friend with her catering business. I moonlighted as a virtual assistant for small businesses during evenings. Every extra dollar went straight into my house fund. My apartment was a small one-bedroom unit in an older building with unreliable heating and neighbors who seemed to vacuum at midnight. The rent was reasonable, which was its only virtue. The walls were thin enough that I could follow the plot of my neighbor's favorite television shows without trying, but I tolerated it all because it allowed me to save. I tracked every expense in a detailed spreadsheet. Eating out was a rare luxury. I cut my own hair, bought clothes from thrift stores, and learned to fix things around my apartment to avoid calling maintenance and potentially facing a rent increase. My one indulgence was a monthly book usually purchased during sales. My friend Amy often urged me to loosen the purse strings a bit. "You need to live a little, Steph," she would say during our budget coffee dates. "What is the point of working so hard if you never enjoy life?" But I had a clear goal that kept me motivated through all the sacrifices. After 8 years of this strict financial regimen, I had finally saved enough for a down payment plus a small emergency fund. The day I reached my target number, I treated myself to a proper dinner at a restaurant and called a real estate agent the next morning. The house hunting process was both exciting and overwhelming. Portland's market had become increasingly competitive, with properties often selling above asking price within days of listing. My budget restricted me to smaller homes in need of some work, usually in neighborhoods farther from the city center. I spent 3 months viewing properties during every free moment. Some were too dilapidated, requiring renovations far beyond my skills or budget. Others were snapped up before I could even submit an offer. My real estate agent, Diane, was patient but frank about my options. "With your budget, Stephanie, we are looking at either a small house that needs work or a condo," she explained. "If you want to stay close to your job, the condo might be more realistic." But I had my heart set on a house with at least a small yard. The idea of having my own garden, however, modest, kept me going through the disappointment of lost bids and unsuitable properties. Then Diane called about a 2-bedroom bungalow that had just been listed. "It is small," she warned, "but well-maintained. The owners are an elderly couple moving to Arizona to be closer to their grandchildren. They have priced it to sell quickly." The moment I walked into the 900-square-foot house, I knew it was the one. Yes, it was small. The kitchen was outdated with laminate countertops and aging appliances. The bathroom needed new fixtures. But the hardwood floors were in good condition beneath the worn carpet, and large windows filled the space with natural light. Most importantly, there was a small backyard with a mature apple tree. I submitted an offer that same day, slightly below asking price, but with minimal contingencies to make it attractive. After a brief negotiation, the sellers accepted. The inspection revealed only minor issues, nothing structural or dangerous. I was going to be a homeowner. The day I signed the final paperwork and received the keys was surreal. I sat alone in the empty living room of my new home, keys in hand, and cried. They were tears of pride, exhaustion, and relief. After years of sacrifice and determination, I had created something substantial for myself. I spent the next week planning renovations and furniture purchases, carefully budgeting to make the most impact with limited funds. I decided to focus first on the kitchen, which needed functional improvements before aesthetic ones. I researched affordable cabinet refinishing techniques and comparison shopped for appliances. The smaller second bedroom would become my home office. I envisioned a bright, organized space where I could do my freelance work on weekends. The backyard would be my summer project with raised garden beds and perhaps a small patio area for morning coffee. When I called my parents to share the news, their reaction was noticeably subdued. "A 2-bedroom house," my mother asked, her tone suggesting disappointment rather than congratulations. Is that all you could afford after all this time? It is perfect for me, I defended. It has character and a nice yard. Well, I suppose it is a start, she conceded. Your first home is rarely your forever home. My father at least offered a perfunctory. Congratulations, kiddo, before my mother took the phone back to ask about the neighborhood and whether I had considered safety as a single woman. Derek did not call to congratulate me, though I had texted the entire family with my news. Rebecca sent a brief niece with a thumbs-up emoji. It stung, but I was determined not to let their lack of enthusiasm dampen my achievement. You should have a housewarming party, Amy suggested when she came over to help me measure for curtains. Nothing fancy, just a few friends to celebrate properly since your family seems determined to rain on your parade. I was considering Amy's suggestion when my phone rang with my mother's number. Little did I know that call would turn my moment of triumph into the beginning of a family crisis. Stephanie, I need to talk to you about your new house, my mother began without preamble when I answered her call. Her tone immediately put me on edge. What about it? I asked, pausing in my task of scrubbing the kitchen cabinets in preparation for painting. You said it has 2 bedrooms, correct? How big are they? And the living room, is it a decent size? Does it have a dining area? I frowned at the odd line of questioning. The master bedroom fits my queen bed comfortably. The second bedroom is smaller, perfect for my home office. The living room is cozy but open to the dining area. Why are you asking? There was a pause, then my mother sighed dramatically. I did not want to tell you this way, but we have a situation. Derek and Rebecca lost their apartment. The landlord evicted them for being behind on rent again. My stomach dropped. I had a sinking feeling about where this conversation was heading. That is terrible, I said cautiously. I hope they find a new place soon. Well, that is just it, my mother continued. Rentals are so expensive now, and with 3 children, they need at least 3 bedrooms. Your father and I would take them in, but you know our house only has 2 bedrooms, and your father's back cannot handle sleeping on a sofa. I remained silent, which my mother took as an invitation to continue. We were thinking, since you just bought this house and probably have not fully moved in yet, maybe you could see if you can back out of the purchase and find something bigger. A 4-bedroom would be ideal, so Derek and Rebecca could have one room the boys could share, and Emma could have her own space. I nearly dropped my phone. Mom, are you seriously asking me to give up the house I just bought and spent years saving for? Not give up, she corrected quickly. Just upgrade to something that works better for the family. We could all help with the additional cost. By all I knew, she meant me. Derek had never contributed financially to anything family-related, and my parents' retirement savings were already depleted from supporting him. That is not possible, I said firmly. I have signed all the paperwork. The house is mine, and frankly, I do not want a bigger house. This one is perfect for me. Stephanie, my mother's voice took on the disapproving tone I had heard throughout my childhood family. Helps family. Your brother has 3 children to consider. You are all alone. Surely you can see that their need is greater than your desire for your own space. The words all alone stung like a slap, as if my life choices were somehow less valid because I was single. I worked hard for this house, Mom. I saved for 8 years while putting myself through college and paying off student loans. This is not about desires. This is about what I have earned. So you would let your brother and his family be homeless because you want to be selfish with your extra bedroom. Her voice had risen, the guilt trip laid out in full force. They would not be homeless. There are plenty of apartments available. Nothing they can afford, and nothing suitable for 3 growing children. I took a deep breath, trying to maintain my composure. I am sorry about their situation, but I cannot solve it by giving up my house. The conversation ended with my mother hanging up on me, after declaring that she had never been so disappointed in my lack of family loyalty. Less than an hour later, Derek called. Unlike my mother, he did not even attempt to ease into the request. So, Mom says you are refusing to help us out, he began, his tone accusatory. I am not giving up my house, Derek. I just bought it. No one is asking you to give it up, he said, though. That was exactly what had been suggested, but you could get a bigger place. You are making good money now, and it is not like you have anyone else to spend it on. Another reference to my single status, as if it somehow made my life less valuable or my needs less important. My finances are not open for discussion, I replied. And neither is my house. Wow, he scoffed. Success has really changed you. You used to care about family. I do care, I insisted. But caring does not mean I have to sacrifice everything I have worked for. The kids were really excited about living with their aunt. He added a transparent attempt to pile on the guilt. Emma was talking about how you could help her with her reading. I closed my eyes, fighting back tears. I am happy to have them visit and to help Emma anytime. But this is my home, Derek. I am not changing that. After Derek hung up equally displeased, I received a text from Rebecca. Unlike my mother and brother, who had at least attempted to frame their requests as family concerns, Rebecca was remarkably direct about their expectations. Just so you know what we would need, Jackson and Liam can share a room, but Emma needs her own space because she is a light sleeper. We would need the master bedroom because of our belongings. The boys are both in sports, so we need storage for equipment. Also, is there a garage? Derek needs space for his tools. Kitchen needs to be updated since I cook a lot. Let me know when you find something suitable. I stared at the message in disbelief. There was not a single acknowledgement that what they were asking was extraordinary, not a hint of gratitude or recognition that this would represent a massive sacrifice on my part. Just a list of requirements as if I were their personal real estate agent. That night, I lay awake in my apartment, surrounded by packed boxes, ready to be moved to my new home. The excitement I had felt just days before had been overshadowed by a heavy cloud of family expectations and guilt. Part of me, the part that had always sought my parents' approval, wanted to give in to be the good daughter and sister who sacrificed for the family. But a stronger part, the one that had worked multiple jobs and pinched every penny for 8 years, refused to surrender this hard-earned achievement. This house represented more than just property to me. It was tangible proof that I could succeed on my own terms, that my efforts mattered. As dawn broke, I had made my decision. I would not back down, no matter how much pressure my family applied. This would be the first time in my life I had firmly stood my ground against their expectations, and though it terrified me, I knew it was long overdue. The morning after the barrage of calls and messages, I called Amy. I needed to talk to someone who would understand my perspective without the weight of family history clouding their judgment. They want you to do what Amy exclaimed after I explained the situation. That is absolutely insane, Steph. Please tell me you are not considering it. No, I said, surprised by the firmness in my voice. I am not giving up my house, but I am worried about the fallout. My mother is furious, and Derek is making me out to be some kind of villain who wants his children to be homeless. Which is ridiculous emotional manipulation, Amy pointed out. Their housing situation is not your responsibility. They are adults with 3 kids. They made their choices, and now they want you to bear the consequences. Hearing someone else articulate what I had been thinking helped solidify my resolve. I know you are right. It is just hard when it is family. Family should support your achievements, not try to take advantage of them, Amy said. You earned this house, Steph. Do not let them take this moment from you. After our call, I took a deep breath and dialed my mother's number. I needed to make my position absolutely clear. She answered on the second ring. Have you reconsidered? She asked immediately, not bothering with a greeting. Mom, I need you to listen to me. I began, my voice steadier than I felt. I am not changing my mind about the house. I worked incredibly hard for it, and it is exactly what I want and need. So your wants are more important than the needs of 3 innocent children, she countered. This is not about comparing needs, I explained. Derek and Rebecca are the parents of those children. It is their responsibility to provide housing, not mine. I am willing to help them find affordable options, but I am not giving up my house or buying a different one to accommodate them. I cannot believe how selfish you have become. My mother's voice trembled with anger. After everything we have done for you. That sparked something in me. What exactly have you done for me, Mom? You paid for Derek's college, but not mine. You have bailed him out countless times while telling me to be more independent. I have worked for everything I have. How dare you, she gasped. We raised you, put a roof over your head. Yes, you did the basic duties of a parent, I acknowledged, and I am grateful for that. But do not pretend there has ever been equality in how you treated Derek and me. The conversation deteriorated from there with my mother, eventually declaring that she did not recognize the cold-hearted person I had become. When she finally hung up, I was shaking, but also felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time, I had spoken my truth without backing down. That relief was short-lived. My father called that evening, his approach initially more measured than my mother's. "Stephanie," he began, his voice carrying its usual gentle tone, "I know you have worked hard for your house, and we are proud of you for that." The acknowledgement, something I had rarely received, momentarily caught me off guard. "Thank you, Dad. But I hope you can understand the difficult position we are all in with Derek's situation," he continued. "Your mother is very upset. She does not sleep worrying about where the kids will end up." "I understand the concern," I said carefully, "but asking me to give up my house is not a reasonable solution. Derek and Rebecca need to find a place within their means, not expect others to house them." I heard my father sigh heavily. "You know how your mother feels about family sticking together, and Derek has always needed a little extra help." "A little extra help has turned into a lifetime of dependence," I pointed out. "And what about me, Dad? Does family sticking together not apply when it is my needs being considered?" There was a long pause before my father's voice changed, hardening in a way I rarely heard. "Your mother says if you do not help in this situation, she will consider it a betrayal of this family. I hope you think carefully about what that means." The implied threat was clear, and it hurt more coming from my father, who had always been the gentler parent, the one I thought might understand my position. "I am sorry you both feel that way," I managed to say, "but my decision stands." Over the next 2 days, the pressure intensified. Extended family members began calling and texting with their opinions. My aunt suggested I could move back into an apartment temporarily and rent my house to Derek and his family at a reduced rate. My cousin reminded me of when Derek had let her stay with him for 2 weeks during college, conveniently forgetting it was his parents' house, not his own. The most painful message came from Derek himself. "Just so we are clear, if you go through with this selfish decision, do not expect to have a relationship with my kids anymore. They do not need an aunt who cares more about her precious house than their well-being." That night alone in my apartment, I cried until I had no tears left. The weight of standing up to my family for the first time was crushing. I had always been the accommodating one, the peacekeeper who went along with whatever was asked of me. This newfound backbone came with a price I had not fully anticipated. For a moment, I considered giving in. Would it really be so terrible to look for a larger house, to take on a bigger mortgage and less favorable terms, to delay my renovation plans and stretch my budget even thinner? Then I looked around at the packed boxes representing 8 years of sacrifice and determination. I thought about the feeling I had experienced sitting in my empty living room, keys in hand. I remembered all the times I had worked double shifts, while Derek received another bailout from our parents. I would not back down. Not this time. My house was mine, earned through years of hard work and sacrifice. If my family could not respect that, it revealed a painful truth about our relationship that I needed to face, however difficult it might be. I sent a group text to my parents. "And Derek, I love you all, but my decision about my house is final. I hope we can find a way forward that respects my boundaries while still maintaining our family bonds." No one responded. Moving day arrived with no further communication from my family. I tried to focus on the excitement of finally settling into my new home, but their silence hung heavily over what should have been a joyous occasion. Amy and 2 other friends helped me move my modest belongings. By mid-afternoon, the essentials were in place, my bed assembled, the kitchen partially unpacked, and my couch positioned in the living room. We were taking a well-deserved pizza break when a minivan pulled into my driveway, followed by my parents' sedan. "Is that your family?" Amy asked, peering through the window. My stomach dropped as I watched Derek and Rebecca emerge from the minivan, unloading their 3 children. From my parents' car, my mother and father appeared, my father opening the trunk to reveal several suitcases. "What are they doing?" I whispered, though I already knew the answer. Somehow, despite all my clear communications, they had convinced themselves I would change my mind when confronted in person. "Do you want us to stay?" Amy offered, looking concerned. I nodded gratefully. "Please." Taking a deep breath, I walked to the front door and stepped outside, just as Derek was herding his children up my walkway. Jackson, 10, and Liam, 6, raced ahead, clearly excited about the new environment. 8-year-old Emma followed more slowly, clutching a stuffed rabbit. "What is going on?" I asked, blocking the doorway. My mother pushed forward, ignoring my question. "The kids must be exhausted from the drive. Let us get them settled first, then we can talk." "No," I said firmly. "We need to talk now before anyone enters my house. Why are you all here with luggage?" My mother looked at me as if I were being deliberately obtuse. "We told you the situation, Stephanie. Derek and his family need a place to stay. Your father and I will be here for the first week to help everyone get settled." "And I told you very clearly that was not going to happen," I replied, my voice remarkably steady despite my racing heart. "This is my home. I never agreed to have anyone move in." Rebecca, who had been unloading more bags from the minivan, joined the group at the door. "Where should we put our things? The boys will need to eat soon." The casual presumption left me momentarily speechless. My mother used my silence to try pushing past me into the house. "Let us get inside first. It is hot out here, and the children need to use the bathroom." I stood my ground. "Mom, stop. No one is coming inside unless they are here for a brief visit, which you clearly are not." Derek stepped forward, his expression a mix of frustration and condescension. "Come on, Steph. You have made your point. But we are here now and we need to make this work. The kids are tired." "I made more than a point, Derek. I made a decision about my own home, which I have every right to make. I am sorry about your housing situation, but this is not the solution." My mother's face contorted with anger. "Stephanie Ann Bradford, you cannot be serious. You would leave your family standing on the porch like unwelcome strangers." "You are welcome to visit," I clarified, "but not to move in. And certainly not without even asking me first." My mother pushed past me and stepped into the entryway, looking around with exaggerated movements. Then came the moment that would echo in family discussions for years to come. She threw her hands up and shouted loud enough for the entire neighborhood to hear, "Where do we sleep? This place is tiny. There is no room for everyone." "That is exactly my point," I said, keeping my voice level. "This house is the perfect size for me, which is why I bought it. It was never intended to house 8 people." By now, a couple of neighbors had stepped outside, curious about the commotion. Amy and my other friends stood awkwardly in the living room, witnesses to the family drama unfolding. Derek moved closer, lowering his voice to a threatening whisper. "We are not leaving, Stephanie. We have nowhere else to go tonight. The kids need stability." "You should have thought about stability before putting your family in this position," I replied. "And you should have respected me enough not to show up assuming you could override my clearly stated boundaries." "Boundaries?" my mother scoffed. "Since when does family have boundaries? We are blood." "Blood does not entitle you to take over my home," I said. "I have made my position clear multiple times. If you choose not to respect it, that is your decision. But I will not be changing my mind." Derek's face hardened. "So, what are we supposed to do? Sleep in the car?" "You could get a hotel tonight and look for an apartment tomorrow," I suggested. "I am happy to help you search for affordable options." "With what money?" Rebecca interjected. "We can barely afford gas for the car." "That is not Stephanie's problem." Amy spoke up from behind me, unable to remain silent any longer. "She worked hard for this house. You cannot just show up and expect to move in." My mother turned her glare on Amy. "This is a family matter. It does not concern you." "Amy is my friend, and she is welcome in my home," I stated firmly, which is more than I can say for people who try to bulldoze their way in against my wishes. The situation escalated further when Derek attempted to push past me with a suitcase. I stood my ground and he bumped into me deliberately, causing me to stumble backward. "That is enough," I said, my voice rising for the first time. "Derek, if you try to force your way into my house again, I will call the police. I do not want to do that, but I will if necessary." A shocked silence fell over the group. The threat of police involvement seemed to finally penetrate the assumption that I would eventually cave to family pressure. My mother's face crumpled, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I do not even know who you are anymore," she sobbed. "No daughter of mine would threaten to call the police on her own brother. And no mother should put one child in the position of having to house another." I countered, my own eyes filling with tears, despite my determination to remain composed. "I love you all, but this stops now." You need to leave and find alternative arrangements. Fine, Derek spat, grabbing his suitcase. Come on, kids. Your aunt does not want us here. Emma began to cry, clutching her stuffed rabbit tighter. The sight broke my heart, but I reminded myself that this situation was not of my making. The children were being used as emotional pawns in an adult conflict, something I found unforgivable. I am always happy to see my niece and nephews, I told Emma directly, kneeling to her level. You can visit any time, but this house is too small for everyone to live here. My father, who had remained largely silent throughout the confrontation, finally spoke. Let us go, Evelyn. Stephanie has made her choice. His tone carried a finality that suggested more than just leaving my porch. As they loaded back into their vehicles, my mother delivered her parting shot. Do not call us when you realize how empty your precious house feels without family. You have made your choice to be alone. I watched them drive away, my heart pounding and tears flowing freely now. Once they were out of sight, I closed the door and leaned against it, sliding down until I sat on the floor sobbing. Amy sat beside me, putting an arm around my shoulders. You did the right thing, Steph. It was hard but necessary. Through my tears, I felt something unexpected alongside the pain, a sense of liberation. For the first time in my life, I had held firm against the tide of family expectations and manipulation. The cost was high, perhaps too high, but in that moment I knew I had finally claimed my independence, not just through purchasing a home but by defending my right to determine its use. The weeks following the confrontation were eerily quiet. No calls from my mother, no texts from Derek, no family updates whatsoever. The silence was both peaceful and painful. I focused on making my house a home, painting the kitchen cabinets a soft blue and replacing the bathroom fixtures. Each improvement reinforced that this space was mine, earned through years of determination. Amy checked on me regularly, often bringing small housewarming gifts, a plant for the kitchen, windowsill curtains for the living room, a welcome mat with a witty saying. Her consistent support helped ease the ache of family estrangement. My neighbor to the left, an older woman named Ruth, introduced herself with a plate of cookies and an offer to water my plants when I traveled. On the right, a young couple with a toddler invited me to their weekend barbecue. Slowly, I began building connections in my new community. About a month after moving in, I ran into my Aunt Margot, my mother's sister, at the supermarket. I nearly turned around when I spotted her, afraid of another confrontation, but she approached with a gentleness I had not expected. Your house looks lovely from the outside, she said after we exchanged awkward greetings. The window boxes are a nice touch. Thank you, I replied cautiously. How is everyone? Margot hesitated before answering. They are managing. Derek and his family are staying with your parents. I nodded, unsurprised. How is that working out? About as well as you might expect, she said with a knowing look. Your mother complains about the noise and mess, your father retreats to the garage, and Derek seems in no hurry to find his own place. And the kids? Adjusting. It is crowded, but they are resilient. She paused, glancing around to ensure no one was listening. You should know, Stephanie, this is not the first time Derek has been evicted. Before they came to you, they had already been asked to leave 3 other apartments for non-payment. The information stung, though. It should not have surprised me. No one told me that. No one tells anyone the whole truth about Derek's situations, Margot said with a sigh. Your mother has always protected him, even from the consequences of his own actions. As we parted ways, Margot squeezed my arm. For what it is worth, I think you did the right thing. It was time someone in the family stood up to the pattern. Her validation provided unexpected comfort. I was not the villain my mother had made me out to be. I was simply the first person to break a dysfunctional family pattern. The conversation with Margot prompted me to seek additional support. I found a therapist who specialized in family dynamics and joined a support group for people dealing with difficult family relationships. The stories shared by others in similar situations helped me understand that my experience was not unique and my boundaries were not unreasonable. During one particularly emotional group session, I voiced the guilt that still plagued me. I worry about my niece and nephews. They did not create this situation, but they are suffering because of it. The group facilitator, a compassionate woman named Diane, offered perspective that would stay with me. Children learn from what they observe. By setting healthy boundaries, you are showing them something valuable, that they may not see elsewhere: self-respect and personal responsibility. At work, I channeled my emotional energy into productivity, earning a promotion to marketing director 6 months after moving into my home. The increased salary allowed me to complete renovations more quickly than planned and even start a modest investment account. I also expanded my social circle, joining a community garden group and a book club. My house became a gathering place for friends on Friday evenings, filled with laughter and genuine connections. The family-shaped hole in my life began to be filled with chosen relationships built on mutual respect. One rainy Sunday afternoon, my cousin Taylor called with an update. "I thought you should know that Derek finally found a job at a warehouse. It has been 3 months, and he has not quit yet, which might be a record." Her tone was light, but the information was significant. "That is good to hear," I said, genuinely pleased. "How are things at my parents' house?" Tense, Taylor admitted. "Your mom had to go back to work part-time at the library because your dad's retirement savings is dwindling faster than they expected. Having 5 extra people in the house is expensive." I absorbed this information with mixed emotions. Part of me felt vindicated. The burden of supporting Derek's family would have strained my finances too. Another part felt sad that my parents were facing financial stress in what should have been their retirement years. "Has anyone mentioned me?" I asked, hating the vulnerability in my question. "Your dad asks about you sometimes," Taylor said. "When your mom is not around, I think he misses you." That night, I sat on my back porch, watching the stars emerge and reflecting on how much had changed in 6 months. My house had become truly mine, reflecting my taste and priorities. I had established boundaries that, while painful to enforce, had allowed me to create a life aligned with my values. The estrangement from my family still hurt, but it no longer defined me. I had discovered strength I never knew I possessed and built connections that supported rather than drained me. As I sipped my tea, I realized I was no longer waiting for my family's approval or recognition. For the first time in my life, I was enough on my own terms. It was a painful journey to this realization, but I would not trade the self-knowledge and growth for an easier path. 6 months had stretched into 9, and autumn had transformed my little backyard. The apple tree that had first charmed me now offered its fruit, which I had learned to harvest and preserve. My home had evolved too, with each room reflecting my personality and preferences. The kitchen renovation was complete, with refinished cabinets and new countertops installed with help from friends and YouTube tutorials. The second bedroom functioned as both office and guest room, with a comfortable futon for visitors. On a crisp October morning, I found an unexpected envelope in my mailbox. The handwriting was unmistakably my father's steady, practical script. I sat on my front step, heart pounding, as I opened it. "Dear Stephanie," it began, "I am writing this while your mother is at her library shift, not because I want to hide my actions, but because I need to express myself clearly without interruption. First, I want to say that I am sorry. I failed you as a father when I did not stand up for you on your porch that day, and for many days before that." The letter continued, acknowledging years of imbalanced treatment between Derek and me. My father admitted to enabling Derek's dependence and undervaluing my independence. "We mistook your strength for a lack of need," he wrote, "and that was deeply unfair to you." He explained that the months with Derek's family living in their home had been challenging in ways they had not anticipated. "Your mother would never admit this, but the situation has forced us both to recognize our role in creating Derek's expectations. It has been a difficult lesson at our age." My father closed with a request to meet for coffee, just the two of us, if I was willing. He included his cell phone number, something he had rarely used before. After several days of consideration, I texted him and suggested a coffee shop halfway between our homes. When I arrived, I found him already waiting, looking older and more tired than I remembered. "Thank you for coming," he said as I sat down. "I was not sure you would." "I almost did not," I admitted. "But your letter seemed sincere." It was, he assured me. "These months have been educational. Your mother and I have enabled Derek for so long that we did not know how to stop. Having his whole family in our house has forced us to see patterns we had ignored." I listened as my father detailed the challenges: Derek's initial reluctance to find work, Rebecca's complaints about the limited space, the children's adjustment difficulties, and the financial strain on my parents' retirement savings. The hardest part, my father confessed, was realizing we had done Derek no favors by always rescuing him. And we had done you a disservice by expecting you to be part of that system. Is Mom starting to see that too? I asked. My father smiled sadly. In her way, she would never say it directly, but she has started setting boundaries with Derek. Last week she told him they needed to find their own place by January. It was the first time I have ever heard her set a firm deadline with him. How did he take it? Not well initially. But then, something surprising happened. He started looking at apartment listings that same evening. I think he needed the push. We talked for nearly 2 hours, covering years of family dynamics from a new, more honest perspective. My father asked about my house, showing genuine interest in the renovations and my life. Before we parted, he asked if he could visit sometime to see my home properly. I would like that, I said, surprised to realize I meant it. 2 weeks later, my father came for dinner. He walked through each room, admiring the changes I had made and asking thoughtful questions. In the backyard, he offered advice on pruning the apple tree and volunteered to help build the raised garden beds I had been planning. Your mother is still angry, he acknowledged as we sat on the porch after dinner, but she has started asking about you. I think she misses you more than her pride allows her to admit. I miss her too, I confessed. And the kids, how are they doing? Growing fast. Derek and Rebecca found a 2-bedroom apartment in a subsidized housing complex. It is not fancy, but it is clean and safe. Derek has kept his warehouse job for 4 months now, which is a record. The news brought a mixture of relief and cautious optimism. Reconciliation with my family would be a long, complex process with uncertain outcomes. But this conversation felt like a first step toward a new kind of relationship, one based on mutual respect rather than old patterns and expectations. Over the following months, small connections were reestablished. My father became a regular visitor, often bringing photos of the niece and nephews I missed. My mother eventually agreed to meet for lunch, a tense but civil affair that ended with a brief, awkward hug. Derek and I exchanged occasional texts, primarily about the children. The conversation remained superficial, but without the hostility that had marked our last encounter. He was working consistently for the first time in his adult life and, according to my father, beginning to take pride in providing for his family. The healing process was neither quick nor complete. There were still difficult moments and old hurts that surfaced unexpectedly, but slowly, a new understanding began to emerge. My boundaries had not destroyed my family as I had feared. Instead, they had forced necessary change that, painful as it was, created the possibility for healthier relationships. On the 1-year anniversary of moving into my home, I hosted a small gathering of friends and family. My father came bringing my youngest nephew Liam, who had begged to see my house. My mother declined but sent a houseplant with a card that simply read, "Congratulations." Derek and Rebecca stayed away, but Emma and Jackson came with my father the following weekend, filling my small home with energy and questions. As I watched my niece and nephews explore my backyard, I reflected on the journey of the past year. The pain of standing my ground had been intense, but the freedom and self-respect I had gained were invaluable. I had learned that true family bonds should enhance our lives, not diminish them. That love without respect is not really love at all. And that sometimes the most loving thing we can do for others is to stop protecting them from the consequences of their own choices. My house had become more than just a structure of wood and stone. It represented my right to create boundaries, to prioritize my own well-being, and to build a life that reflected my values. Through defending it, I had found my voice and discovered who I truly was beyond the role I had played in my family for so long. The path forward remained uncertain. Reconciliation with my family would continue to require patience, forgiveness, and firm boundaries. But I faced that uncertainty with newfound confidence, knowing that whatever happened, I had created a home within myself that could not be shaken. Sometimes saying no to others is saying yes to yourself. And sometimes the family we need most is the one we build around us, composed of people who respect our boundaries and celebrate our growth. The most valuable home is not made of walls and windows, but of the courage to honor your own worth, even when those you love cannot yet see it. Have you ever had to stand your ground against family pressure? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. Remember to like this video if it resonated with you. Subscribe for more stories about finding your voice, and share with someone who might need encouragement to set their own boundaries. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, creating a home begins with respecting yourself.